Hello there, welcome to today's stream. Very interesting topic today. I'm not going to be diving too deep into software. Hey there, EM. See you there in the chat. Thanks for dropping in. Actually, just wanted to talk a little bit about this point of AI replacing designers, replacing artists. You know, it's a whole topic, or it's a whole issue that's still ongoing and being discussed, and kind of solutions are being implemented and proposed to sort of, and I mean, really, we don't exactly know where this is going just yet. I mean, all these technologies are evolving so quickly still. But I wanted to give my 2 cents after using these tools very heavily and having modified my own creative process to implement these tools myself. I think I have a pretty good idea, at least for me, right? That's kind of where we can start talking about this. Is everyone's process is different, and it's different when we speak on art versus when we speak on design, right? So first, on the topic of art, illustrators, artists are very annoyed and frustrated and fearful, rightfully so, of these new technologies emerging, such as Midjourney, all these stable diffusion. They just keep getting better and better. And the reality is, a lot of people that are on Fiverr or on these like freelancing platforms that would typically charge less for their services, are trying to get more volume of work, trying to get off the ground and or at least like tackle a lot of different services. Those tasks are now replaced by an AI, right? If somebody wants to start up a company and they just need like a logo just to be shown on their website and their social media, they can use an AI for that. They don't need to hire a human, extensively. Well, now I'm not speaking so much on art, but say like art commissions, right? If you want to put on a, if you want to get a vinyl print or some sort of canvas print, and you can go to one of these services and just create your own artwork through prompting and trying a little bit, you get to something you like, you print it, you get it done. I mean, now there's all these different printing services that people have been using for their own merch. And now there's companies that are just entirely automated systems where one AI produces prompts. That prompt is then used to create an image. That image is then placed on a piece of merchandise, a backpack, t-shirt, coffee cup, whatever. And then it's put on a e-commerce website, and then it's sold as AI artwork. And they can generate unlimited amounts of merchandise every single day that can resonate with people and that can sell. So is it fair? No, but the economy never has been, and it's never been fair for artists. So historically, if we take a look at what the artists or what the pieces of work that have stood the test of time and that we respect the most and we have in museums, all that stuff, art actually got less good as time went by, right? The main point at first was to beat a camera, right? Like, you had to be such a good real life painter. Like, you had to get things exactly as they are in real life. And as the camera emerging, that was a threat, right? It was like, as the camera came about, it was like, well, what are we artists gonna do now? And they had to pivot, right? So that's when we start seeing impressionism, abstract paintings, like, I mean, way down the line, but you get my point. The technology comes and disrupts, people feel threatened, and the market changes, right? And then suddenly there's a market for what would previously have been considered really crappy art is actually now more emotional, more influential, cultural. It resonates with a whole time period, right? Or it's indicative of a time period. So what I'm really getting at here on the point of art is that, in my opinion, if an AI is able to produce art that becomes more popular than the art that you're able to sell as an artist, then you're not doing your job as an artist. Sorry to say. I mean, really, why do people buy art from humans, or why would people continue to buy art from humans? It's because your art resonates with them. It communicates something with them. And that's honestly something that I myself really believe, because you can kind of tell when art is generated by an AI. Yale did a small study on this. It was sort of internal. They surveyed a few hundred people, and they tried to see if they could identify between they presented to them 9 different pieces of artwork generated by AI and some generated by humans, and they could distinguish, what was created by a human and what was created by an art. Basically, there were like very few people. I think it was like 2 people that were able to get everything right, and 2 people that got everything wrong. And there was like over 100 of people, over 100 and some people that just kind of fell in the middle of the pack, right? And I think that's pretty indicative of something. It's not a large sample size, but what I think that indicates is really there are artists that are simply replicating what other artists do, or they're doing something that looks good. They're doing something that really is just kind of has no real emotion put into it or thought put into it. There's artists out there that do great work, don't get me wrong, but they don't fully embody what it is that an artist, a successful artist or a long-standing artist or an artist that has impact does, which is to communicate emotion, communicate their message in a way that it's infused in their work, and they're able to cultivate a relationship with their audience or with their collectors and so on. I mean, the social media era has given us so much exposure to different styles of art, so many different types of things that you could do. I mean, I'm sure everyone's seen this guy on TikTok or Instagram or whatnot. Not to bash the guy at all, but he just has spray paint cans, and he puts a bowl on a piece of paper, and he spray paints the whole thing in black, or some color, and then he like spray paints another color on it, rubs it with a piece of newspaper, puts a bowl over it, spray paints it black, and makes a planet, right? And he does one of these like every day, or he could do multiple of them every day, right? Is that art? It takes him like 5 or 10 minutes, and it's something that's been done forever by many, many different people. But why do his pieces still sell, right? In an age where there's still AI, why does that continue to sell? Well, it's because he has a personality. He shows his face. He shows his process. He responds to his audience. He communicates with his audience. He takes commissions and requests from his audience. So he's cultivating a relationship there. And the work itself, the art, is a manifestation of that relationship, right? So, yeah, I mean, that's really going to be the key, I think, is really not labeling AI art that's made with AI to be disclosed that way, right? It's really not about creating a separate category for AI art and separating that apart, because you just can't do that. Like, there's just so many different points at which you could incorporate that tool in your process that it'd be totally subjective. So another way about it would be like, this is purely human created art. And I do think we're headed that way, where it's kind of like, I don't use AI, right? And that's not something even that'll have to be disclosed, because again, with the whole aspect of creating this online or creating this relationship with your audience is going to know your process because you probably are showing it to them, right? Or you're probably documenting it. And that's really, I think, where that's headed. Are a lot of artists going to decrease or lower in their sales? Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I'm sure it's happening. A lot of copywriters are just not getting hired anymore because of ChatGPT. It is what it is. So, there is a future for artists. I just think it's forcing artists to adapt, and it's forcing them to have to really think about what is it that's their unique value proposition, right? What is it unique about getting human-made art that AI just can't do? And ultimately, that's us searching for what really makes us human, right? If AI can do all these things and a machine can do them, then what is it really that we bring to the table? So I think that's a really interesting question to answer. Also, never mind that we're forgetting, like, we're just talking about AI artwork that can then be printed. Like, strokes of the paintbrush, sculptures, clay, fashion, like, all these things are still huge outlets for artists that AI just can't compete in yet. Right? A good point here to transition into talking about design would be the introduction of Photoshop. So I don't know who remembers this, but this is a huge outcry when Photoshop got really, really good and just started becoming used so prominently with advertisements, right? The huge criticism here was that it made good-looking people or beautiful people into completely unrealistic beauty, right? Or even like completely changing people's body shapes or changing their skin tones, taking away imperfections. And in a lot of countries or in a lot of cultures and a lot of societies, people were pushing to make sure that all these images that were touched by Photoshop to have a label or a disclaimer that they had been edited by Photoshop. And, you know, that outcry lasted for a while because photographers and, you know, other models and just the general public, right, were really, they felt cheated or they felt deceived, right? And now it's, where are we at? Like everything is manipulated. Everything is Photoshopped. Everything is put through a filter. Everything's, you know, changed. And, you know, it's funny because we've actually gone like full circle now where like grainy film type photography is like in again, like that nostalgia is like playing on. And, you know, a lot of photographers, there are people still that make a good living off of being film photographers, right? But that's their niche, that's their thing, like that's what they provide as a service. So yeah, I mean that carries us over into this point about design, which is design I mean, you know, we can define art, we can define design, and like it's all so creative and subjective. But at least for me, where I draw the line is art is an emotional expression that communicates to someone. And design is creativity applied towards solving a problem, presenting a solution, right? So when it comes to that, sure, AI can help you get there, but it won't take you all the way. So at least how I've been, you know, I would consider myself more a designer than an artist. And for me, like the AI generated image or the AI generated things aren't the end of the line, right? It's more so part of the mood boarding process. So when I start up and I do my research, I gather references, I gather, you know, what could be potential solutions or things that intrigue me. I then use AI to expedite the process of putting together a inspiration board that helps me move forward and that can give me ideas, right? So actually today I had a call with a client and I had done a 3D model, I had done some sketches, and prepping for the meeting, I was like, you know what? Let me just throw these sketches into the Leonardo AI, the thing I used yesterday, or the thing I streamed about yesterday, this image generator and editor. I just threw the sketches in there, and I got some product renderings, and like, you know, are they actual things that I can incorporate into the product? Not really. Like, is it how the product's going to really look like? No. But it added so much to the conversation because one image maybe had an edge that was rounded very dramatically while another one was rounded very, very softly. One had a black matte material, one had a black glossy material or semi-gloss. One had like an earthy tone and another one had like an orangey tone. So within a span of like 5 minutes, I was able to create decent enough renders where we were able to converse about our design options in front of us. And, you know, those are 5 minutes that I spent just generating those product renders that aren't really reflective of what the product's going to look like. But it was good enough to advance the conversation on the design and on the aspects that we want to incorporate into the actual project. Will AI get good enough to the point where it's going to be able to produce viable things like that? Sure. But again, it's like AI has as good of an eye as we can give it, right? And for at least for now, it can do a really, really good job at certain things. But when it comes to actually applying it towards a specific area or something really specific that you want to get at, it can't do that. And it can't do that yet. And I think it won't necessarily, I think, for design, because there'll always be those nuances. There'll always be those decisions to take, you know, there'll always be extra considerations to take into account that just maybe can't be baked into how the tool operates at the moment. So I think for design, you know, it's adapt or die, right? Because if so the amount of time I spent on that little presentation was about or what the prep work that I did for that meeting, what I showed would have been previously if I had rendered all those images and tested all those colors and materials and conditions on the product, it would have taken me probably around, I'd say like 6 to 8 hours total, right? The modeling, the sketches, plus those renders. And the AI just made it so that it was basically under maybe 2-3 hours that it took me to get to that result. So a big bulk of the work was taken away. And not only that, but now I had a much more productive meeting than I would have had otherwise, and a clearer path forward, right? And it's like, why wouldn't we want to use this? I think architecture, just moving on to this point of architecture, since I'm been in the industry, am still in the industry, and architecture is just the slowest evolving of all the design and creative disciplines. I mean, in general, the industry in general is just so slow at it. And one thing that really irks me about the architecture industry, I mean, architecture design in general, is this obsession with like the purity of design or the purity of the creative process, and that romanticism and mysticism around creating that people cling to, and they think that AI or these advanced tools diminish that purity. That's nonsense. I mean, I don't know if it's nonsense, but like, bottom line, if your client doesn't care, it doesn't matter, right? Because the reality is, if you say, hey, I stay true to my process, I stay true to how I do things, that's how I get the results, and I don't use these things, and so if you want to work with me, it's going to take this long and it's going to cost this much. And then someone who uses those tools is going to be like, I can do it faster and cheaper and give you the same or better result. It's a no-brainer for the client. So that it's just not serving you to stay away from it. It's not serving you to dismiss it. It's not serving you to undermine it. You're only hurting yourself. And as I heard, and as I've been repeating, because I really do believe this, it's AI is not going to replace us. It's the people that pioneer, the people that really are early adopters of these tools and really put them into place and come up with systems that can deliver solutions using these tools. Those people will replace humans that don't use AI. So anywho, that's the main take I have on it. I wanted to just bring this thing up. I mean, this made waves on the internet, so I'm sure you've already seen this, but this is an artwork that won an award at a competition, and I believe the judges were not aware that this piece was made by an AI, and it was submitted under, I think, the category of manipulated photography, which is totally, yeah, that's what it is. Should you have a separate division for this type of artwork versus human-made or other photography manipulated tools or methods that people may use? That's not for me to decide. And ultimately, I think there's enough competitions out there and institutions out there hosting these type of things where everyone can everyone makes up their own rules already, right? Everyone has their own brief. Everyone has their own guidelines. You go to where your process or where your means of operating match with the guidelines set forth by, or the constraints set forth by the competition. I think the artist mentioned that it took him, I believe it wasn't under 8 hours, right? It took him like 8 hours plus to get to this image. And I believe that because it's an iterative process with the AI, and it is a medium, right? Like you're painting, or if you're painting, right, you're learning how one color mixes with another, how white plays a role in it, how black plays a role in it, what you can do with color, what you can do with the paints, how long you need to let it sit for, right? And do you let it dry? Does it ever get dry, right? Like oils oils you can continue working on. not forever, but they never fully like set. You know, you can always, in a way, smear or mix onto the oil so it's never fully set and permanent. Acrylics dry, they take a while. Watercolors dry, they're quick. You learn those mediums. And in the same way, this person had to learn the medium of the AI image generator, had to generate a prompt, get an image back, select one, continue to iterate on it, probably did more modifications, probably edited in Photoshop, probably took it to other software, fed it back into the AI, edited certain parts of it, you know. So again, it's a medium and a tool like any other. Let's see. This is that AI study I had mentioned. So I just wanted to mention this from the person who ran the study. Ibrahimi Afrouzi classified AI as a craft. AI art, which he described as existing in its own category, is unique to itself and fundamentally different from what human artists create. You know, totally agree. Totally true. So the right answer to the question is no. AI art is a art. Is AI art. The article is sort of looking at discrediting AI art as art. Illustrators are furious about AI. These are just a little bit of the items I had researched before coming here on stream. I just wanted to also bring this up from Harvard Business Review. The creator economy is currently valued at around $14 billion per year, enabled by new digital channels, independent writers, podcasters, artists, and musicians that can connect with the audience directly to make their own incomes. What this really means is $14 billion a year isn't really, I mean, it's what content creators are taking home as income, or it's the money that's being getting moved around. The majority of that is in selling their own products or advertising other people's products or services. So AI making its way into marketing in these aspects, right? I mean, you could produce many more pieces of content, advertisements. You know, AI just helps with the copywriting. It helps with the image generation. It cuts time on all of that. And it's just a no-brainer. Like, the more pieces of content you can put out there that put your message in front of your audience, the more attention you can get, the more money you're going to make, the more value you're going to place on these tools that make that possible. So really just the point of me bringing these things up now is it's inevitable. I mean, there's nothing we can do. It's Pandora's box. It's been opened. You can't put it back in. It's the same thing with the whole copyright laws, right? Or free use laws. Like, you put something up on the internet and it's on the internet. Like, you can't, even if you block people from downloading it, if you block people from reposting it, they'll be able to screenshot it. They'll be able to save it. They'll be able to have it. They'll be able to, quote unquote, steal it, you know? And as the more you try to regulate it, the more you try to, you're setting yourself up for failure, trying to regulate that very heavily or in unrealistic ways, and trying to really just control human behavior around the subject. That's just setting it up for failure, and it's setting itself up for conflict and a waste of resources. The best thing we can do is embrace it, see how it fits, see how it doesn't fit. And I mean, for designers, if it's not part of your process and it still makes you competitive, fantastic. For artists, if you can create art purely devoid of these tools and still have an audience or have a market, have people that are willing to buy your art because of your story, because of the message that you put out there, hell yeah, you know? But yeah, I mean, the people in the industry or colleagues of mine that are scared, nervous, fearful of these tools. I mean, people in general, it's not just people close to me, but I've just been seeing a lot online on social media and everything, especially people declaring like, this was made by me. I did not use an AI. Like, I'm a designer and I dabble. I mean, I wouldn't call myself an artist, but I like to practice art. I don't care. That's me. I don't care. If it does something for me, great. If it doesn't, sorry. Or, you know, next, right? That's my 2 cents. Just thought I'd put that out there. It's not to discredit anybody's work, not to lower anybody's, you know, credibility or ability or insult or disrespect in any way. There's artists that I love that only paint, right, or only do sculptures, and they stick to it, and they, take away from AI. So, yeah, I just think the phobia around it is not serving you. So drop it. Either figure out what is it about you that makes you unique, or start embracing it and still find what makes you unique. Because if a machine can replace you, then what you're doing was valuable, but it no longer is. And that's just the reality. EM asks, how do you answer to a client that says he can use AI himself and he doesn't need a designer? Yeah. I mean, if that's what you think, then go ahead, use an AI. I'll tell you, it'd be hard to do role play here between the comments and me speaking. But I actually had this sort of interaction in my head earlier this morning. Like, say a client comes up to me and says, like, I want a website for my company. I'm like, well, do you have a logo? No, I don't have a logo. Okay, well, you probably also want a logo to throw on your website. It's like, okay, so a logo and a website, and I'll give you the text, right? Let's take copy out of it. Let's just talk about the logo and a website. And I go, yeah, okay. So what's that worth to you, right? And the client might say like, $1,000. They're like, well, okay. I can do a website and I can do a logo for you. However, my floor price for those type of services comes at around $3,000. And then if we can meet somewhere in the middle or not, but then if that comes up, it's like, well, why wouldn't I just use an AI, right? Instead of hiring you. So like, yeah, go do that. Go spend your time, use an AI to create a website for you, and use an AI to create a logo for you and put that logo on the website. And that might work for you. But I can tell you, the money that you're spending with me, I'm going to make sure that that logo not only is affected on your website, but that you can use that logo as a profile picture on Facebook, on Instagram, on any platform that you want to go on. I'm going to make sure that logo works well on merch, that it can be printed on t-shirts or on caps, if that's something that's interest of you. Wherever it is that this logo is going to be placed, I'm going to make sure it looks fantastic. The AI won't do that, but it'll give you a logo. The website, sure, you can make the website with an AI, and it'll probably give you most of what you need. When I build websites, I make sure I track people's activity, or I have a system in place to track people's activity on the website, so that we can optimize the website. I make sure that everything is laid out in a way that's intuitive for a person. I put it through testing. I get feedback from it. And to be honest, I might use an AI tool myself to kickstart the process. So, but if you'd like to do that yourself, you can go ahead. I promise you, I'm going to invest myself into making the adequate solution for your business. And that's my fee for doing that. And if they want to walk away, they can walk away. If they don't value that, I don't want to work with them. I only want to work with people who value what I do. It's not always the case. We always have to put food on the table. We got to pay the bills. We got to do the things. But again, it's like it's a match to be made. It's not. I believe that. I believe that, at least as a freelancer and between companies, like work between companies or work between people is not something to force. It's not something to do or die. It's not to bend over to every single client request and just do it because the client says so. I think the client should just not worry about it. If they're hiring me, you should just not worry about it. I'm going to take care of it. I'm going to do a good job. And this is the price for you to not worry about it and get something great. So that's my answer to that question. It's a bit complex or long, and it may not work in every industry. It may not work for everybody. It may not work for a certain type of client. And that's the thing, right? It's like, sure, like at some point in time in my career, I would have charged $500 for a logo. Now it doesn't make sense for me to charge for just doing a logo even, right? If you can just do a logo with AI, excuse me, if you can just do a logo with AI, my services go from being logo and web design to being a whole packaged set of services, right, that are coherent. I read an article that kind of made that argument too for people that are on Fiverr and on Upwork. It's probably going to be less viable for people to be freelancers to gain their experience. You'll probably have to get a job and get your experience that way before you can go off on your own. Or you'll have to spend more time at a company before going off on your own, because that bottom level of services, that's sort of like, here's a roster sheet, check what you want, and like that'll be the bill. That might be less viable. And everything I'm saying is dependent on region, right? Because some cultures, or even like some places where there's probably older people, and older people are just not that interested in these new technologies. I'm speaking in generalities, but I think a lot of, and coming back to that design romanticism, or that just like set in your ways type of thing, right? It's like, no, I don't want to use a machine to do this. I want to go talk to a person who will do this for me, right? And so I'd rather pay a little bit of money for a human to go do it than for me to use this technology. I'm sure that'll be the case as well. Do you think that AI can perceive and incorporate history, expectations, and vision of the customer into the product? Not currently. No. Not currently. So, man, that's another thing, is we're totally irrational creatures, right? Like, we don't go with the best option most of the time. We go with the option that's most comfortable, right? So, or feels less risky. Some people out there are purely calculated, right? And sometimes that works against you too. But ultimately, like, humans make these decisions of where to put your money or where to make your bets on trust, on gut feeling, as much data or as much research as you do. Ultimately, there's that aspect, right? That it's like, how the other person's dressed, what their tone of their voice is. Are they as excited as you to pursue this problem or pursue the solution? Do you value the same things? Do you communicate in the same way? Meaning, like, I'm a big email, Slack communicator. Like, I just love writing back and forth, like sending updates, blah, blah, and then just be like, hey, let's hop on a Zoom or hop on a call. Let's get in on a call, resolve this in 20, 30 minutes. And I've worked with companies, I've worked with individuals at many different scales that run their entire operation through text message. And that drives me insane. I will adapt to it. I will do it. It can work in some situations, but generally that experience has driven me insane to run a business through text messages, or to run work, to operate on projects through text message. And other people do that. That's great. But it's come to be a deal breaker for me. And I think those type of things anyway, like communication style, values, yes, expectations, can the client trust you? I guess that goes back to the point of, the older generation or nostalgic people of regards to art and design, is like they can't establish that trust with an AI, with a machine, because the way that they establish trust, or the way that they establish trust with whom they're going to trust to solve their problems, is largely based on a human interaction. So, but I guess, really coming back to the original question, do I think that AI can perceive and incorporate those things? No, I don't think it can. Not yet. There was this, I saw this clip, and if there's no more questions up in the chat, thanks EM for those questions. Those are fantastic. And in closing, I don't know, in closing, but before I conclude this episode, I saw this clip of this person describing, we're all gonna be digitized. There's gonna be a version of us that is basically an image that can be turned and that can be animated, like a hologram or some sort of image that can animate and speak, and it's going to be informed with our entire persona, our entire experiences, our tendencies, our way of speech, our opinions, our beliefs, and we'll basically have a digital double, to the point where our grandchildren will be able to have a conversation with our digital double and ask us things and interact with us. And that seemed so far-fetched. It seemed like an episode out of it is probably an episode out of Black Mirror, and that seemed so far-fetched at one point. And now with this chat GPT thing and everything NVIDIA's doing to create digital doubles, if you don't know, they have a tool where if you're streaming or you're talking and you're looking off to the side to a script, I should probably use that or figure it out. But if you're looking off to the side, the AI will actually modify your video so you're always looking at the camera. And the same tool that does that can just reskin you. You can create a photoreal person or a digital looking person that is basically a filter on you, just like they have on Snapchat for streaming or for broadcasting, for making videos. So with those technologies combined, yeah, absolutely we'll be there where we'll all go. There'll be a company that'll offer it as a service. We fill out a questionnaire. We come in for interviews. They scan us. They document. We document our lives. We write down our thoughts. We talk about our lives and our experiences, and they'll create a digital double of us that future people can interact with much after we're gone. So if it's clear that that's coming from the current technology that we have, yeah, I mean, at some point, AI will perceive and incorporate those things that you're mentioning: history, expectations, and vision. I mean, why not? It will be able to distill all those things from one individual. How we extract all that information from the individual, right now, it'd be a time-consuming process, but we'll see. So now in closing, I just want to say, stay open-minded, keep experimenting. Don't let this whole thing, don't try to just put this off, because it's already here. People are already building one-person companies that used to take 20, 30 people to run by using these AI tools. Yeah, you're doing yourself a disservice if you're reluctant to adopt these technologies. And like with everything, there's a learning curve. You're not going to understand it at first. It's going to be confusing. There's going to be a lot of terms you don't understand, a lot of back-end stuff that you won't even ever get to peer into. But once you get a groove with it, you start to realize, like, holy cow, not only am I so inspired with the work that I'm doing, but it took me a fraction of the time that it used to take me to do. And that's an amazing feeling, for sure. All right. So with that, I'm signing off. Thanks for joining in. I'll see you on the next one. Next stream, actually, I will be posting about it tomorrow, but I'm announcing it now. I will be interviewing or having a discussion with Mateos Stancati. If you don't know who that is, he is the co-founder of The Sunken Blimp. He is an amazing, amazing 3D artist and designer who provides AR experiences for his clients. And he started his journey in architecture school while I was working at that school. And I'm so proud of this kid. I mean, he's done amazing. He's on an amazing track, and I'm super, super proud. and I'm incredibly looking forward to catching up with him and talking about how he's doing with his career and how his business is going. So yeah, stay tuned for that. That is going to go down May 8th, whatever day that is, May 8th at will be posted. Hold on. I'll mention it now. Since I've mentioned it, I'll give all the details before I log off. But I will be posting about that on all the channels if you're following me, and you'll see that come up on this YouTube channel. So subscribe for that. And yeah, we'll see you in the next one. Have a great night, everyone. Thanks, Nirav. Thanks for coming through. And thank you, EM, for leaving messages in the comments. Super appreciate it. Always love to see you show up. All right. Night, everyone.